Here is a ton of news about the fourth stimulus payments, social security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Continue watching this video because you don't want to miss out on this. The majority of Americans strongly support the federal government doing something for a fourth stimulus check, and there's three factors that we're going to go over in today's video. First of all, is whether Democrats and Republicans are going to find a way to get a bipartisan deal done on stimulus funds and for families. Republicans have not even been on board for another direct payment issue to most eligible adults, but a number of Republicans are in favor of expanding this child tax credit. And this has been a key priority for Democrats as well. Although there is a disagreement about how such a tax credit should be structured, it's possible from lawmakers both sides of the aisle that they will come together to find a compromise that will control Congress to split. So the Colorado senator has even asked one of the leading efforts in the Senate. He told CNN that Republican leaders decided to send a lump of coal to America's children last year, and we know that the most significant step Congress can take to help America's children is to support an expanded child tax credit. So when Congress took action on this in 2021, we cut child poverty in half in 2020. And so, as of right now, things will go back to the way they were before the American Rescue Plan, unless somebody does something for these stimulus payments. Because now the IRS said it recently finished correcting tax returns for 2020, which included overpayments for unemployment benefits that worked and received last year. And this means that it issued already 12 million tax refunds as a result. So the average tax refund is around $1,200, with the agency sending a total of $15 billion to taxpayers. So it may not seem like a lot, but it is. And so what we mean by this is that the average tax refund is around $1,200, everybody. $1,232. So with the agency sending a total of $15 billion back to taxpayers, well, the IRS has said that taxpayers were sent letters from the IRS to inform them about fixes to their 2020 tax filings. So now the tax review came about during the American Rescue Plan. Yes, during the American Rescue Plan, about 14 million tax returns were collected and corrected, but the IRS issued 12 million refunds for those filings. That added, individuals married couples whose adjusted gross income was below 150 grand were also eligible to have some unemployment aid untaxed. And according to the IRS, taxpayers were eligible for the exclusion, and who haven't got a correction from the IRS may need to file an amended 2020 tax return to claim any refund. During his speech, McConnell said, "We all know inflation and the economy are the biggest problems facing Americans today. We are a big and a diverse country. 93% of Americans hardly ever agree on anything, but Democrats are unifying the country in unhappiness, at a dark path down which have taken our economy." McConnell once again blamed inflation on Congress, saying that last year, without a single Republican vote, the stimulus checks passed. McConnell warned that a budget reconciliation package under negotiation is going to put more pressure on the economy, citing more than $200 billion in tax increases. The package would include to extend the solvency of Medicare. McConnell told reporters business owners are watching apprehensively as Democrats debate another dose of bad policies. Now, you can expect a big stimulus check soon. Democrats and Republicans have officially signed into law legislation that is going to provide new stimulus checks to millions of low-income households with up to $1,000 in financial aid. Last year, the enhanced child tax credit provided millions of parents in the U.S. with financial relief. The last expanded child tax credit payment was dispersed in December, but the pause led to the increase in the number of children in poverty from 12.1% to 17%, also putting 3.7 million children below the poverty line. And now with inflation on the rise, plus a possible recession looming, several states and lawmakers are planning to send families with more money starting this year. 12 states are granting additional child tax credit to low-income families. Many families in need of extra money due to the cost of inflation will get $1,000 per child annually. Governor Phil Scott of Vermont has signed a new tax cut package that includes a statewide child tax credit for children to 5. The tax credit will phase out at a rate of $20 per every $1,000 earned over that threshold. The credit is fully refundable. The bill also allows for a fully refundable child independent care credit of 72% of the federal child independent care credit allowed to the taxpayer. It increases the earned income tax credit to 38% of the amount granted by the federal government and includes tax relief for student loan borrowers, retirees, and veterans. The final version of the $40 million bill allocates $32 million to pay for the new statewide child tax credit, which legislators estimate will help more than 30,000 Vermont children. In a statement, Governor Scott called the bill a step in the right direction, knowing that previous proposals included a package worth nearly $50 million.
Now, will pass the Active Shooter Alert Act. Mr. Morelli described it very well, and I agree with you. It is a step, and we must have what you said you support, and I do too. The ban on assault weapons and other lethality. This vital legislation that we're doing today will quickly warn communities when a gunman opens fire, a common-sense life-saving measure widely supported by law enforcement. Let us recognize Congressman David Cicilline, a longtime champion in the fight against gun violence, for spearheading this legislation and also being the author of the assault weapons ban. The fourth and fifth bills that our Democratic majority will pass this week are strong to defend women's health and freedom. Our caucus has been hard at work assembling a robust and resolute legislative response to Supreme Court's assault on reproductive rights. We passed this legislation before the WIPA, the Women's Health Protection Act, which will enshrine the essential protections of Roe v. Wade as the law of the land. And with our Ensuring Women's Health to Reproductive Freedom Act, we will reaffirm a constitutional right to travel and have access to the abortion pill. Let us salute Congresswoman Judy Chu for her leadership. We passed this bill in the fall. We need to pass it again. Congresswoman Fletcher, Strickland, and Congressman Raskin for their tireless, determined leadership on the Ensuring Women's Health to Reproductive Freedom Act. Madam Speaker, this legislation that the House Democrats will pass this week is the latest in our work to defend America's health, security, and our freedom. Our majority will never relent in this fight. Now and in the future, I urge a strong yes vote on the rule today, and yes.
Madam President, I rise to discuss helping our service members exposed to toxic burn pits. Let me tell you about U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was a strong, healthy, fit combat medic who served tours in Kosovo and Iraq. When he returned home, however, he began experiencing fatigue. He started bleeding from his ears and nose and completely lost his voice. After consulting multiple doctors, he and his wife were sitting in an exam room, waiting for test results when the doctor came in with tears in his eyes. He explained that Sergeant Robinson had an extremely rare form of stage 4 lung cancer and exclaimed, "What have you been exposed to?" Sergeant Robinson thought back to his tour in Iraq. He remembered seeing and smelling smoke from pits the size of football fields at his base near Baghdad. While serving in Iraq, Afghanistan, and beyond, millions of U.S. troops have lived and worked near burn pits. They're basically burning trash heaps that the military has used for decades to dispose of everything from human waste to trash and electronics and jet fuel. And they spew forth many of the same dangerous toxins that were at Ground Zero after 9/11. The VA estimates that 3.5 million service members were exposed to burn pits around the world, many of them veterans who are now suffering from permanent injuries and illnesses ranging from chronic bronchitis to cancer. But when these veterans seek treatment, they face an often unsurmountable burden of proof.